said, remember, just introduce yourself real quick. That way Coach Hankins can start putting names and faces, okay?
Coach, first off, welcome to Greenville. I know you've been here a while, but we haven't talked to you. Steve and I go with the hoisted colors. Just a few weeks into camp, man, what has stood out to you about the defense this far?
Just energy and effort. I mean, it's consistently gotten better through every practice, which is good. And, you know, you got so many new players, those guys gelling together, and all this. Obviously, there's something every day that you can find to get fixed. And the biggest thing is just mixing these guys together and putting them on the field together, getting them talking to each other, doing different things like that. It's huge for us. But I've seen steps every day, which is good.
Coach Dugan Lloyd of WITN TV, welcome to Greenville. So far as you've watched camp, just curious, is there a position group on the defensive side of the ball that's really caught your eye or had a strong experience so far?
I think the D-line's very strong. The defense as a whole, there's a lot of guys that can play. There's a lot of old guys that have been here and played. Obviously, when you have the most returners at one position, that's the one that catches your eye first because they know the most. They've got the most experience. They've heard the same language. They've done all those things, and when you have as few new guys at that position, they obviously gelled faster than some of the other groups that are a lot more new players.
Coach, Clip Rock Pirate Radio, what attracted you to Greenville, the East Carolina job? What did you know about ECU before you got here?
I've known Coach Harrell for a long time, what he's about, especially when it comes to how you play the game and, the mindset of it and the type of players that just a lot of the same things that I loved about it. And, all the way back to when he was at Kennesaw and I was at different places, we always kept in touch. Both of us are defensive guys, and I always look at it as an opportunity. I'm 45 years old now. I've been a coordinator for years, and got the opportunity to call plays. Getting with another guy and having another soundboard. Because no matter what you are, what your job is, another opportunity to learn something else. There's something they do different than we did. And things like that. I get to understand the why, especially coming into the building every day. You got a guy to walk in his office and say, okay, why don't we do it this way? Why do you like it this way? This is what I've done before. Let's find out the best way to do it.
Can you talk about the uniqueness of, the whole defensive staff's kind of been in place with Blake, and you're coming in and calling plays, and I guess you're adding your style too as well to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously very unique. You come into a defensive staff that's been together for a long time, and they're learning me, and I'm learning them. And it's just really good because those guys have coached together for a long time. So they have their own language, and I'm learning that language, day by day. So I'm not the type of guy that's going to be my way, and obviously you can't do that. I mean, they've played good defense here, obviously, and the things they've done. So it's been real fun with those guys.
Don O'Coley, Daily Reflector. Welcome to Greenville, Coach. What's been the hardest part of this transition? I know you've seen this team before, obviously in conference. What's been the hardest part for you?
I don't know if anything's just hard. I mean, college football in general, with all the new faces, it don't matter where you go. You walk into a new one and you're the new player. It used to be, you'd have about 6 or 7. Now you got 30 or 40, and coaches too. It used to be, the coaching cycle would change who was talking in front of the meetings and things like that. But I don't think it really matters what building you're in football, and especially in college football now. The hard's going to come just because it's new people, it's new faces, it's new personalities, it's new ways people learn. And it's not just players, it's coaches too. Every coach learns differently. From the experiences that they've had and what they bring to the table, you just got to have an open mind and learn that way.
Coach Philip Pilkington, 94.3 The Game. Welcome to Greenville. You're also the inside linebackers coach. It's kind of the quarterback of the defense. Can you just talk about that room and who you're kind of relying on to maybe be that guy this year?
Yeah, I mean, the guys that were here last year, DJ Johnson and Jackson Barker. Jackson Miles Jordan Miles is a young guy that, he played some last year, but he's really taken a step. Cade Law and Cruz Law, who just transferred in, have showed that, they're learning the defense too. And obviously they were with me last year, but there's some different communication things that they do now that, they've showed up and played well. And honestly, I like the whole room. You got the young guys that are sort of, learning by fire. Especially the two that should still be in PE class right now. So it's fun to watch them, and their eyes get big, and they're scared to mess up. You just got to let those guys go. But those top guys I talked about are going to be the guys that show up.
Jared Watkins, Pirate Radio. Just who's standing out in the cornerback room right now?
Well, there's a few of them, but I mean Ashton Levels, the transfer that we got in here, Jalen Bowden, those guys, you know, those guys are being put in a lot of, especially in the spring, we try to put those guys in a lot of hard situations, you know, find the guys that you can trust and all that. But as a whole, that, you know, Raymond Mosby and those guys, Pop, you know, those guys, it took me to about practice 4 or 5 to put the numbers together. You know, and obviously the first numbers you learn are the ones that make the plays. So like those are the names that I learned first. You know, and they've done a good job of, especially all the different defensive schemes that we run. It's not just man coverage every snap. You know, being able to understand their space and where they're supposed to be. Those guys have really showed up.
What's the biggest leap you want your defense to take from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2 this week?
Well, we're going to throw some more install, you know, this week. You know, really challenge them more mentally. You know, the last spring game was just, you know, it was a lot of base calls and you know, stuff that they've been doing for every day. You know, and so like for the next week, we're going to see who's going to have the bus when we have to install something new for the next game. You know, who can handle the intelligence part of, okay, why are we making this call? You know, what spaces are we trying to take away? You know, what players are we trying to take away? So that's going to be the biggest thing this week. And then obviously went out today in helmets and, you know, did some things, you know, but want to see who can make that step.
I know you said already that you were familiar with Blake long before this, but what was it specifically with ECU's defense in the past few years that the scheme, the way they play, that kind of drew you here?
The way they play football. You know, that's the biggest thing. At the end, you can take all the scheme and everything out of it, but when you turn the tape on and you watch them play on defense and how hard they play consistently, you know, that's a culture deal. And I wanted to be a part of a culture that, you know, that was expected and that's going to happen every day. And that was the biggest drive.
What's your philosophy on being physical at practice, also being smart and not reckless? How do you balance
Exactly what you said. I mean, to me, it's an entire coaching staff's philosophy. It's not just, you know, and Coach Harrell does a great job of taking care of our guys, and you know, because it is a long season, you know, and especially, you know, there's not another window where you're going to go replace a bunch of people either. So you got to be smart, but at the same time, you have to see what they can do when everything's on fire, you know. So it's got to be balanced out, you know, somehow.
You obviously had a really good program in Memphis, and on the other side last year, what do you remember about that atmosphere, and how excited are you to kind of coach?
It was a great atmosphere,
Yeah.
great crowd. I took an elbow with somebody jumping out of the stands, so I've already took my licks here. So part of it. I mean, I don't shy away from it. And it is what it is. It's a great football game. It's a great college football game. That's the reason you play. You know, it has nothing to do with. It has nothing to do with where I was. I mean, it's a great atmosphere. It's a great opportunity to play football.
What rooms for improvement do you see for the defense this year? What steps can they take?
Everywhere. I mean, tackling is a big thing, and like it goes back to your question, how do you get good at tackling? You got to tackle. You know, so that having that balance, and then obviously, you know, knowing the guys that are going to strike, that are going to take those shots and stuff like that. You know, once you find that out, then that's how you figure out how to balance it. You know, because you have to be physical. You know, that's number one. You know, tackling and block defeats are the biggest thing. I go out there every day. Tackling, block defeats, and running to the ball. Those are the 3 things every play has to have to be consistent. Now, you might have the A gap. How did you take it? You know, like that mindset of me doing my job. That's going to be the biggest thing that we got to get done.
Do you anticipate calling plays from the box or the sideline, or is that?
I don't know. I hadn't made my mind of it yet.
Yeah.
I've never called from the box.
Really?
Yeah. I've been trying in the spring. See what it's like. I think I'm going to get bored, though.
Any other questions? Coach, thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you.